Yo, what up, dogs? I went and saw No Hard Feelings on Saturday at 6:50 p.m. and I had about 8 people in the theater with me. And honestly, I only saw the trailer for this movie once, and I really wasn't like excited to go and see this movie. But I do like going to see comedy movies, and I find comedy movies are always hard to make because comedy is so subjective. So I really do enjoy going to watch them. And I have to say, after watching this movie, I did not laugh that much. There was the odd thing that made me laugh, and my audience also didn't laugh too often. Like, it wasn't a very good shared experience of laughter. There were some little chuckles here and there, and they did laugh at the odd thing that was in the trailer that they found funny, and I was kind of like, this movie didn't really lean into an R-rated raunchy comedy that I was kind of expecting because it got an R-rated trailer and all that. But we kind of got more of a middle of the line wholesome comedy experience. And the raunchiness of this movie kind of stands out from the story and the message that we're getting from this film. And let's get into it, because I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't think it was the best comedy I've seen of this year either. And it just falls right in the middle of, it was an okay movie that I would probably suggest you watch it on streaming, because I don't even think this is a movie where you want to get the crew together to have a big laugh fest, like you're going to bust your gut laughing. I don't think it is that. I think it's more of a wholesome, let's just laze around the house streaming movie and laugh a little bit alone or with maybe your partner. That's kind of where this movie falls into line for me. So let's get into it though. I got the notes out. Here we go. It is directed by Gene Stupnitsky, who did Good Boys. And I only saw Good Boys once in the theater, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember liking Good Boys either. It's not in my collection. And I kind of want to revisit that movie just to see if I had a bad day. You know what? I just wasn't in the mood to laugh that day. But I don't remember enjoying that movie for some strange reason. But maybe I'll revisit that someday. And this movie stars our main character, Jennifer Lawrence, who plays Maddie Barker. And this character is, she's a local of the Montauk, I think New York. I'm not too sure where Montauk is. And she's a local or a native of that area, and this area is a tourist area. So every summer, the other people from around come and rent out the houses or live there only in the summer. So that's how she makes all her income. But she's very much kind of stuck in her ways, downtrodden, hopeless. Doesn't have a future, and she's very mean and aggressive, and I think she's kind of like a user of sorts. Like, she uses people, and like it comes across that way right away, that she's manipulative, and that's just how she works because she's just trying to survive. Like, she's on constant survival mode. And in this instance, the story of her losing her car because she can't make payments on her home, so they're foreclosing everything. And the only reason why she owns a home is because her mother bought it and left it to her in her will, right? So she has all these bills for mortgage taxes and stuff like that. And she loses her car, which is her only form of income, because she does Uber all summer for the people that come and visit, right? And that's what sets up this whole story of, she finds a way to get a new car, but in order for her to get that car, she has to seduce and date and kind of bring out of his shell our character Percy Becker, who's played by Andrew Barth Feldman. And Percy is 19. He's a loner. He has no real friends. He's on his way to becoming a student at Princeton. And he's really in his shell. He's in his own world. His parents were probably helicopter parents. Actually, they are. They go over that a little bit. And the whole point of doing him is really not just to have sex with him, but that is her operous, that's her motivation, is to, I have to sleep with him and break him out of his shell in order to get this car. And she's 32, by the way. And that has been brought up on my TikTok channel, where people were like, well, if this was the roles were reversed, this movie would be crazy. And at the same time, I'm like, this is a South Park episode. If you guys all remember it, where that boy has sex with the old teacher and everyone's just like, nice. That's kind of what this whole thing is all about, right? It's like a young man who's 19. He's an adult. He's still 19, Noah. Whenever you have teen in your name, I don't think you're a teenager. I think you're a teenager still. You're not an adult yet. And I think in America, it's like, you gotta be 21 to drink, right? That's when you're probably an adult. So it's kind of a weird dynamic of this 32-year-old chasing after this 19-year-old to sleep with him and bring him out of his shell in order to get a car so she can make money and save her house. That's the whole premise of the story, in a sense. But along the way, we get these scenes that are supposed to be funny of Maddie and Percy trying to, she's very aggressive a lot of the time, trying to fast track having sex with him. And he is very timid and, like I said, in his shell, in his own world, in a bubble, so to speak. And he wants to love her before he has sex with her. And that like throws a real monkey wrench into her whole scheme of like, I'm just gonna bang him, get it over with, and get this car and make that money and save my house. But through the course of the interactions and trials and tribulations of her trying to coerce him into having sex, he develops feelings for her because that's his whole thing. He wants to love her before they have sex. And she is not in love with him at all. And there's scenes in this movie where you're like, is she falling in love with him too? That's weird. But she puts the kibosh on that like quick. But so, okay, let's go over some scenes in this movie real quick here. The best scene in the whole movie is, and probably the funniest scene, and I didn't even expect this, is the beach scene. There is a scene in this movie where Maddie takes Parker to the beach, and she wants to swim in the ocean. Percy, swim in the ocean, nude swimming, right? And so she courses him, and she's very aggressive. Like I said, she's very aggressive in this, and I don't find her aggressiveness funny. Like, there's a lot of things in this where you might think it's funny, but you don't really laugh at it. It's just odd. And she gets him into the ocean. They're swimming naked and stuff, and like they're talking, and then a group of kids show up and steal their clothing. So she comes out of the beach, and it's a nude scene, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, hold up, I didn't even know this was happening in this movie, right? This nude scene happens all of a sudden, and it's Jennifer Lawrence out full frontal, and I was like, is this real? Is this a deep fake? Did they just CGI her head on a body or something like that? So it took me out for a second, and I'm like, I was not expecting this. So you get a full frontal like nude scene, and it is actually funny because she beats up the students, and I was just sitting there laughing at it because I'm like, this is so absurd. This is the nude scene that we get for Jennifer Lawrence, is her beating up these kids, and I'm like, okay, whatever. It's so weird. It's so weird. And there's other jokes in this movie that just do not land at all. Like, for instance, there's a scene where Maddie meets Percy's parents for the first time, right? And obviously the father is played by Matthew Broderick, his character's name is Laird Beckard. And then we have Laura Benanti, who plays Alison Becker, and that's the mom and dad. And when you first meet them, Matthew Broderick introduces himself as Laird, and she's like, is your name Lasagna? Like, it's such a silly joke that you're just like, huh? Why? And there is a good sight gag in this, or a physical gag in this, where she climbs the stairs with the rollerblades on. It's just so awkward. And there's a lot of rollerblading sequence in this movie that you kind of laugh at, but you're just, because it's awkward, it's just weird. But there's like so many dud jokes. And there's also like there's a character that just randomly shows up in this movie. Hold on, I wrote him down. Because Hasan Minhaj is in this movie. He plays a character named Doug Kahn. And he literally, in the flow of things of this movie, in the pacing of this movie, he just shows up randomly at her house and is like, hey, remember me? And I'm sitting there going, no, I don't remember you. No one's ever mentioned you before. And even Maddie doesn't remember him. She's like, huh? And we're all like, huh? This is so weird. It's such a weird scene. And he's like, oh, I'm the kid who slept with the teacher, and we're married and stuff. And like, it's this weird, like, I feel like they put it in there as a callback, so to speak, to the overall story of Percy being 19 and she's 32, and this guy was like whatever 15 in high school, right, and had sex with the teacher who was probably 32, maybe 40, whatever, right? And there's just like, hey, look, it worked for us, kind of like thematically putting it in here. And I was just sitting there going, well, what is the point of this? And his character, Doug Kahn, is a real estate agent. And he's like, hey, if you want to sell this house anytime, call me. And it's just like, why is this here? It was such a weird shift and introduction to a character that I'm almost wondering if there is anything left in the editing room where this character was introduced earlier to give us a sense of this. But he's just awkwardly plunked into this world. And that's not the only, like, yeah, that one was weird. It was just weird. And I would like to call two more things out to your attention, because I do feel like this movie is more of a wholesome movie with a moral story and a lesson to be learned because of how everything unfolds at the end. So Percy and Maddie have a falling out, so to speak, because Percy learns about the whole thing, right? Of like, hey, yeah, I'm being hired by your parents to do this to you and all that jazz. So there's a big falling out. And this is where the moral of the stories start happening, right? Because like they break away, she becomes just not disenfranchised, but she starts realizing that she needs to move on. And she learned a lesson from Percy. Like Percy taught her things, and she taught Percy things, right? So there's these life lessons going on. Now Percy's becoming more of a man. He's starting to become outgoing. He's starting to embrace the world around him. He's starting to become something new. He's like released from his cocoon, and he's becoming a butterfly. You know what I'm saying? And Maddie is also releasing from the cocoon of Montauk in the world that she's lived in for the last 30 years, and shedding the skin of all these excuses of why she's been stuck, right? Because her mother died. She never had a father in her life. She never was able to leave, you know, because she's been stuck. Like, and so she's starting to see these things, and she herself is like, I need to move on, and she does, right? And things happen in that regards, which I won't spoil. And so that's where I'm sitting there going, this isn't an R-rated, raunchy, like comedy movie. This is a wholesome comedy movie with a good story, or an attempt at a good story. This could have been better if they got rid of the R, I think, and actually focused in on some wholesome comedy and not tried to push for an R rating. But like here we got these weird, awkward R-rated comedy jokes and nudity and swear words in this wholesome movie, and I feel like that's where it doesn't work for me. I feel like you're giving me two different ice creams, and I just want to eat the one ice cream. However, I would eat both ice creams. I'm not lying to you. And I want to just throw this other thing in there, because there is one thing in this movie I actually liked, comedy-wise. And there's a scene in this film, which is the frat party scene. I'll call it a house party scene, where Percy's at, and Maddie goes to... why does she go there again? To stop him from having sex. Sorry about that weird edit there. There's some landscapers outside doing their thing, so I had to close the windows. And let's carry on. So, the frat party scene, or the house party scene. So she goes to save him from having sex, and because she wants to be the one to do it, right? And in this scene, she encounters youth at a party, and they're just partying, right? And they call her out for being old. And all of her comebacks are like, well, why don't you guys have sex with each other? Or why don't so-and-so? And then they respond back by going, whoa, wait a minute. Instead of laughing it off, right, like blue collar style, like, yeah, ho, 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 they get offended by it, and they start pulling out their phones and stuff and recording her and being like, oh, what do you mean? Two friends can't be gay and stuff like that. And they're like recording her, trying to cancel her and stuff like that. And I thought that was a very interesting idea and concept and commentary on the state of comedy, in a sense, in movies and in stand-up and in real life. And I thought they could have went somewhere with it, but it kind of just went to an idea of like, hey, remember when we could be crude and say whatever we wanted to say, and you guys would all laugh at it and enjoy it, and now we can't do that anymore? It's kind of a state on comedy movies. I think they tried to make a little note in here. It's something I just noticed when I was sitting there watching the movie, and I liked it. I liked the idea of it, and I thought, hey, we could explore this in a different movie even. I thought it was a good idea. But in general, that's it. That's all I got for this movie. Will I buy this movie and put it into the collection? Maybe. I don't think so. If I see it like bargain bin, sure, I'll get it. $2, $5, I'll probably pick it up. But other than that, I don't think I'd go out of my way to buy it and add it to the collection. And I honestly would recommend you to just watch it when it comes out on streaming. Pick it up on iTunes when it comes out, digital download it, or hit it up on the Netflix, whatever. That's probably the best way to see this because I didn't find it that funny. However, you might find this movie to be incredibly funny, and I am incredibly wrong. And that's the love of, like, that's the beauty of comedy. You can't predict it. It's unpredictable sometimes. So tell me what you thought about this movie in the comments below. I'm out of here. I hope you guys have a good week, and whatever movies you are watching, I hope you enjoy them. The next movie I'm going to go and see is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And that's it for me, guys. Peace out and bye.